very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Myself Vaibhav. In today's session of Visual JForex, we will be seeing the functioning of the Awesome Oscillator, which is the third indicator in the Will Williams series. We have done so far the AC and the alligator. Now it's the turn of the fresh new indicator in the Bill Williams series. Here you have all these listings for the indicators, and now we are going through the Bill Williams series, the indicators developed by the Bill Williams, and today it's the turn of the Awesome Oscillator. So we will see the basic construct and how we can use it to help us guide in our trading decisions or for any underlying instrument. It can be of currency, commodity, or equity index, or even shares. So here, if you consider, the Awesome Oscillator is a momentum indicator, and it reflects the change in the driving force, and it helps us identify the strength of the underlying trend, and it will help us determine the point of reversal and the underlying formation. So here the tooltips is given. You can go through these basic parameters, the input and the output parameters. We have to define all these parameters whenever we are going to customize the indicator as per our requirement. So you have these input fields where you have to define the instrument, the period value, the shift value, faster MA type, time period, the MA type, slower MA time period, and the slower MA type, 0, and the positive and the negative. These are outputs starting from 0 to positive to negative. And let me show you the block on the platform itself. This is the Awesome Indicator block on the Visual JForex platform. Here you will get the brief summary of its functioning. And now moving on to its use, we have to define these input values. As you can see, we have these 7 input fields where we have to define the value as per our requirement, and we will use these in conjunction with the chart. So this is the Euro USD on the hourly time frame, and let me add the Awesome Oscillator here. So here we have the Awesome Oscillator. Okay, we got this Awesome Oscillator here. Now, as you can see, there are red bars and the green bars. Whenever these positive values are rising, we have these bars denoted in the green. Whenever the positive values are falling, the bars are denoted in the red. And whenever the negative values are falling, again we have these bars denoted in red. So it means that whenever the absolute value is going not absolute value, whenever the value is going down, we have these bars charted with red color, and whenever the values are on rise, we have the green color coded bars. So it depends on the momentum. If the values are going down, which means that the momentum is on the sell side, on the lower side, and that's why we have these 2 different color coded bars, which helps us in easy identification, and then it improves the ease of use. Now here we will see its editing option. So whenever you have to use this, you can customize the indicator to help you pinpoint the optimum setup which you can work. If you consider the input parameters, we have to define these applied price, the faster MA time period, the faster MA type, the slower MA time period, and the slower MA type. And as I said, we also have to define these in this block. So Now coming to the chart again, this chart is defined on the hourly time frame for the Euro USD. So these values have been chosen. So whenever you want to determine the trend of the underlying instrument with the help of the Awesome Oscillator, you plot it on the chart and you see what kind of values, what kind of setup is going to be of best use to you, and then you manipulate the settings here. You see which is the price which is giving you a best combination, the best idea of the underlying momentum. Suppose if you want to use these on the low price, you will have these different combination, different output values. If you want to use it on high price, again as you can notice, the output values change. So depending on the input you get the output. Typical, again it has changed. So let us go with the closing price. So here you have the closing price for the applied price, and we choose the same on the Visual JForex platform. We want the algorithm to trade just in the manner we would trade if we were to do manually, but since trading manually is an intensive job, we have to be in front of the screen all the time and keep checking on the values. So rather than it's always better if we can shift on the algorithmic side, and we choose the same parameter which we are using on the manual charting setup. Suppose now here we are choosing the applied price to be close price, so we take the same. We have taken this closing price, and the upper side is also bid, so that setting is a match. We have the upper side as a bid. Now we have to define rest of the input parameters. We have to define these 7 input parameters, which will then give us 3 output parameters, output values. The default instrument is Euro USD, default period is 10 minutes. Now that we are seeing this on the hourly time frame, we have to change this. So we are trying to reconstruct what we have on the hourly setup. So I'm giving you an example of how you can do that, and then it will trade just the way you want it to trade. So if you want the value to be taken into account should be of last hour instead of the current hour, as you will have this closing value only after the end of the hour. So unless and until the hour closes, you won't get a fixed value. So instead of taking a floating value, you can utilize last hour's closing value by defining the shift value at 1. That means the last hourly candle. So here we change this to 1. Shift will be 1 now. Now these MA types, MA time period goes on to make all the difference. Here you can see that the faster MA time period is 5 and the slower MA time period is 34. And the way you customize this is of high importance, and also which kind of SMA you are choosing, which kind of moving average you are choosing also makes a whole lot of difference. Suppose if we make this change to 14, then you will have the different output. As you can see here, the Awesome Oscillator's formation has changed a lot as soon as we changed its MA time period from 5 to 14. So here you can see, and if we now make it to 21, so keep this in mind, pay attention. Again it will change as soon as I change it to 21. So now as you can see, the combination has changed further. So it depends a lot on which type of MA time period or you are working with. Again let us change the slower one. Now the slower one is we can do it with 51, and you will see a drastic change. So here we have this change, and it is fairly visible, as you can see. Now suppose if you want the same setup to unfold on the algorithmic setup, you want a similar kind of stability. As you can see here, we have these changes in the trend happening after due passage of time. It is not too frequent, it is kind of smooth, and the time interval is also with due passage of time in between the change in trend. And if you notice, it is this combination is as I said, fairly smooth. So suppose if you want to use the same combination on the Visual JForex platform, all you have to do is change this to the new combination we are working with, and you will have the same parameters applied to your algorithmic setup, and algorithm will be executing the trade just the way you would in case you are trading manually while looking at the chart. So we have got this combination changed. Now coming to the type of moving average, the type of moving average also makes a whole lot of difference, as I would explain to you here. Suppose if you change this SMA to EMA, then as you might have noticed, this formation has changed. Again, let us change the slow time period as well, slow SMA time type as well. Just pay attention to the bars of Awesome Oscillator. Again, these have changed. So here, as soon as I change the SMA values to the EMA values, the formation has changed to some extent. And here we have these different parameters, different output values. The output parameters values have changed in a significant manner. Now again, if we want to do some changes and we want to use a different type of MA, moving average, suppose if we want to use HMA, then you will have change. As you can see, here is the new formation, and we want the HMA to be applied for the slow moving average. In that scenario, again these output values will change, and so here we got this. Okay, so as you can see, we have this significant shift in how the output values are showing up on this bar. Just when we changed the SMA to EMA, we had different output values when we changed from EMA to HMA, and we also have changed the time period values. So because of that, the whole setup looks fairly different here. And if we want the same setup to be applicable to the Awesome Oscillator block, then we have to carry out the similar kind of changes here. So the whole point is, whichever way you want to customize, you can do that. All you have to do is define the parameter just the way you feel the setup is the optimum one. So in that manner you can put this directly as well, and it will be kind of hard coded for HMA, and change this to HMA here. So we have the Hull moving average now acting as our faster as well as slower MA type, that is the type of moving average, and accordingly the output values will be reflected just the way we have here on the chart. So in this way, you can customize your indicators and you can then help take the help of these indicators. Now, if you want the trade to be opened up when the value shifts from this being in the fall to being in the rising territory, so you can just take couple of if blocks, a couple of awesome oscillators block, and define and do the comparative analysis with the shift values. You can take one awesome oscillator block of shift 1, another of shift 2, and then you can compare the output values. If it is falling, you can put in the command of a sell trade. If the values are rising, you can put in the command of a buy trade. So either way you can work with this awesome oscillator block, and whichever way you feel is the optimum setup, you can define it, and it's fairly simple to do that, and it's also very convenient. And since we have three output values, it also makes it easier to do the customization and then take the output values which are required and put in the additional conditions. So that's it for today's session of the Awesome Oscillator. I hope you have liked this indicator and you feel fairly confident that you will be able to use these for building the algorithm involving these indicator. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous day ahead. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.